You are now tuned into ChiChat Podcast, where four women come together to encourage, inform, and inspire women by creating a dialogue that develops strong sisterhood and friendship. Around the table is Yolanda, Ebony, Katrina, and Breonna. Okay, now it's time for some ChiChat.
Hey everyone, we are back with another Chit Chat episode. How you doing today? It's your girl Bree moderating, but I want to go ahead and introduce our special guest that we have with us. It is the gentleman from Hoe to Husband Podcast. No, your girl didn't stutter. That's what I said, Hoe to Husband Podcast. And they are really some great gentlemen. It's a trio of friends, Mr. Jason, Terry, and Bailey. Mr. Bailey couldn't join us today, but we're going to keep on rocking. So I'm going to pass it to the gentleman just to say, hey, y'all, and let everybody know how you doing.
What's going on, everybody? I appreciate y'all having us on.
Same here. Quite the introduction there.
Hey, I try my best. So, we, again, as I told you guys earlier, we like to go ahead and check in on a scale of 1 to 5. Your girl, Bree, feeling like a 5, feeling really good. I'm going to pass it to Katrina. How are you?
I'm a 5, y'all. I feel right good.
With that blue on, I like it. Yolanda, what about you?
I'm at a good 5. I'm glad to have some wonderful guests again today. So I am at a 5.
Yes, Foxy Red. And what about Ebony?
I'm a 5. I'm feeling good. It's Saturday, so yeah.
Okay, I like that throw. Don't hurt nobody. All right. So, go ahead and get right into this topic because when we reached out to these gentlemen, they were like, bet, let's talk. So, this topic today is stereotypes of Black women and why men seek out other or exotic women, as it was stated in this article by 50 Cent. The actual title of the article says, fans slam 50 Cent after he calls Black women angry and says he prefers exotic women. A quote from a Twitter user said, it bothers me that Black men really feel bold enough and comfortable enough to openly bash Black women when the world already hates us. Guess what? The way that quote sounded, it was from another sister. Another sister felt some type of way. So I'm going to jump right into the conversation with our friends Jason and Terry. Why do Black men define Black women as angry, but yet other women are defined as beautiful and exotic?
Wow.
I don't think most guys. I don't think most guys identify women as angry like that. I think that's largely a part of media and society in general that labels women to be that way. But I've been doing some thinking about the question since Jason shot them to me the other day. And I really think that the biggest reason that women come across as being so aggressive or angry to men is because in American society, that's really the only people can express their anger and really vent to is the man that they're dating or in a relationship with or their family. They can't go off on can't really voice their opinion, in a work setting and all these other environments. So I really got to thinking like that's really the only time where she can just be uncut and cuss and say everything that she really got to say, and that can come off as aggressive and angry, especially if it's an argument. So that's I think where the stereotype is presented. It's mainly a phenomenon that's a result of media and how women are portrayed.
I'll piggyback off what Terry said too. I mean, I had some notes myself, and I think it's more of a media stereotype. I don't like when Black women are categorized as angry. Like we're making Black women monolithic as one here. That's definitely not the case, but it's definitely something that you see from the media. You see it all the time in movies, right? Mm-hmm. In TV shows. And I think, now people are labeling Black women as angry. And as far as labeling other women exotic, I mean, yeah, you see Black men wear that as some kind of badge of honor. And that's another media propaganda. You see it. Take this, for example. Think of rap videos, right? What are you seeing there? Lighter women, quote unquote exotic, long wavy hair. So it's more something perpetuated by the media, but I don't think it's necessarily a reality.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the colorism has, just think back to your favorite shows like Different World and, just Fresh Prince. Like, the light-skinned chick is always the trophy or the highlight of the show. And so that's kind of what guys grow up fantasizing about. And then once they get any level of fame or celebrity status, that's what you see a lot of them gravitate towards. But as far as dating goes, the experience of dating a Black woman, that's very different for a lot of guys than dating women that are in other races. But that's not necessarily a stereotype. That's more a result of slavery, the condition of Black people in American society, etc., and the conflicts that we have as a people that cause the type of turmoil that make it difficult for Black love to thrive or to prosper. And ultimately, the Black woman is kind of the face of that, the single mother. She's the one with the kids. Like, so it's just a bunch of things that perpetuate that it's the woman that's causing a problem. And that's not necessarily the case. You have to take a deeper dive into what are the underlying issues that cause that type of interaction between Black men and women.
Okay. Wow. That was very good. I like that as an explanation. Ladies, it's time for us to chime in now. How do you think this narrative was created? Ebony, you wanted to start us off?
I'll let one of you ladies start it off. I'm still thinking right now.
Okay. Katrina, what about you? What do you think started the narrative, per se, of an angry Black woman, quote unquote?
Well, I guess, like he said, a lot of times you can't vent outside the home. You can't vent. You can't go to work and express how you feel, stuff that's bothering you. You can't go off at work, but at home you're more relaxed and you can be yourself. And if something is bothering you, you can pretty much let it out. And so I feel like a lot of men probably think that, she's just another angry Black woman, blah, blah, blah. Because you're always upset or you always got something to say, type thing, when we don't have anywhere else to vent. He touched on the subject that we've talked about a few times on our show, of the media, and it's the media has put it out there again that we are angry with Black women in general, are just angry, and so that's the way the media has us looking now. So that's my take on it.
Yolanda, you got it?
For the record, Black women do have a lot to be angry about. Just put that out there. There are healthcare, systematic racism. There are a lot of things that are justifiable to be angry at as a Black man or a Black woman. So it's okay to be angry. Like, white people are mad about masks. Like, they angry about a lot of stuff too. that really ain't don't warrant it.
The only thing is just we get publicized by the media. White people not as much. They look at, white people are mad about putting on masks. They look at it as, they're fighting for their rights, their freedom.
Mm-hmm. And then if you think about it too, it's just Black people in general in the media are looked at as angry. Like, that's absolutely one reason why I think that the police are so aggressive towards not only Black men but Black women too, because they think we're so angry, or they think that we're quick to pop off with an attitude or whatever. And it's not only us, but like you said, we got a lot to be angry about. But just because, I want to put it out there, just because someone voices their opinion about something or lets you know how they feel about something does not mean that they are angry.
Exactly.
Get it right.
That is definitely a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yolanda?
Yes, ma'am.
Just the narrative. How do you think the narrative started? Where do you think it was birthed from?
Well, I do think media plays a role in it. I really do believe that. And I believe that sometimes us as Black women can come off angry because maybe we're fed up. Maybe there's some things that's going on that we're tired of seeing and we're tired of dealing with. And so it comes out as angry. But no, we're not really. We're just fed up and we're tired. That's my spin on that. And so I'm going to pass it off to someone else.
Ebony, did you get some time?
Well, yeah, just going back to what Terry said about the media and all of that stuff and colorism. Like, even I was sitting here thinking about Martin, even on the show Martin, Gina, light skin, she was the one who deserved love. Pam was always like just pushed to the side, like she's the home girl, she's the one he want to crack jokes on and all of that stuff. So yeah, most definitely, I feel like media plays a huge role in it.
And I think that a lot, as a woman, as a whole, I think, and I mean, I know it was kind of sad, but I just got to say it this way. We've had a lot of disappointments when it comes to men. Like, there have been some disappointing moments as, from a little girl to now, and it's like you built up this quote unquote anger, but I think that the media wants to try to highlight that, but it's just because as a man too, do you own up to the disappointments that have caused this woman to get angry? So you would rather choose another woman versus dealing with this woman and clearing the air with this one? You know what I'm saying? Like, really rebuild the relationship with this woman over trying to go with another woman because you think she ain't going to talk about my issues. She ain't going to bring up the fact that I ain't doing right. Because it's like, I think that's why I felt funny with 50 Cent comment, because he almost stereotyped women who live in low income housing. He stereotyped women who have a 9-to-5 job, like your average black woman. He almost put a stigma like that. I don't want that one.
Wait a second. But 50 Cent, I mean, he's had a history of doing this. It's almost to the point where he's just trolling. I see him more of even as a troll than a rapper.
Oh.
He's been doing this for about a decade here. He's had some type of disdain for black women for whatever reasons here.
Yeah.
So, I guess he does it so, you guys are doing topics like these and people having conversations like these and people keep talking about them.
Oh, I see what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
He is definitely a troll, but I'm just going to say this. It was a black woman who helped him heal when he was shot in his mouth.
You better speak it, Ebony. It was a black woman who got him to... Okay, let's just go ahead and just put this out there. A lot of times, us as black women, we're held to a stronger standard. When you are down and out, and this is not for our guests, but when this is what I've noticed. Mm-hmm. When the black man is down, the black man is working towards the goal. Mm-hmm. His woman is a black woman, strong black queen. Okay? When he gets to a certain point in life, that black queen is all of a sudden dropped and she's replaced with the exotic, with the Caucasians, with the straight hair, with the implants, with the injections. This is this is why a lot of black women, I feel, are frustrated, because see, you want us when you're going towards something, because with that strength that you need. But the minute you get there, and this is not just media. Media is, with this point, yes, they do spin things. I have noticed that. But media is going by what's out there. We look at a whole bunch of stars. We look at a whole bunch of actors. We look at a whole bunch of chefs. We look at a whole bunch of singers, rappers. The minute they make it to a certain standard, they drop the black woman. That's why I said that black women aren't unnecessarily angry. We're just fed up and tired. Why do we have to help you get to a point where you want to be in life? And as soon as you get there, then we on our own. And this, like I said, guess this is not anything towards you. I'm just saying in general. This is what we're seeing as black women. So we come off as such. We come off as angry.
Right. I'll say it, and I believe it's more propaganda, because there's a website you should go check out. I believe it's called blackdemographics.com, and it says, I believe it's 85% of women that are married, 85% are married to black men, or I believe it's 93%, and 85% of black men who are married to black women. Yeah, that's a fact here.
Okay.
So it's proven by data that most black men and most black women marry each other here. But once again, it's a media propaganda thing. that, you know, makes you think, oh, okay, you know, once, you know, black men like to date white women or non-black more here.
Right. And that's a really good lead up to my next question, because I actually found a quote from an article that was written in 2010. Excuse me. And this quote was simply from the article writer. His name is Mr. Coates. And he said, "I'm a black dude hooked up with a black woman, but I don't sleep with black people. Black people don't pay half my rent. Black people don't take my son to tennis lessons this week. Black people didn't support me when I was trying to make it as a writer. An individual with her own specific hopes, dreams, and problems did those things. Now, it's true that she's black, but the qualities that allowed her to do those things, like compassion, commitment, vision, are not black qualities." So the question I have for everybody is, when men or women are dating, is race a factor? Because basically he was saying it wasn't about her race that had her supporting me. It was just she supported me. So the race thing, is that really a factor in society? Like, is it almost like I cannot date outside my race, or I'm choosing to date outside my race because I'm not trying to deal with the angry black woman narrative? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, is that a real issue? Right? Is race really the issue?
Race matters in everything in America, at least to some degree. So yeah, it matters. You know what I'm saying? Like any man with any level of success is something you have to take into consideration. You got men that feel like me. I would never date a white woman, no matter what, no matter how. I would smash a couple of white chicks, but I would never make her my girl or date one seriously. No matter if I was single, whatever, no matter what the situation was. Personally, I just find black women more attractive. I prefer natural, but in natural shape. And like, I like everything about black women, and that seems to be what everybody's trying to be. As far as the guys that you described in that passage, that sounds like a sellout that doesn't really have doesn't identify with his true self. Like, to think that positive qualities are not black, then you don't have a clue what black people are really about. Everything that white people thrive off of was stolen and copied off of us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to me, that's just a person that lacks the awareness to understand what black really is. You know what I'm saying? Like, to think that positive qualities somehow mean white means that you have been brainwashed and you actually believe and have bought into what the white supremacist rhetoric that has been taught to you. You don't have any real awareness of what it means to actually be black and what blackness truly is. So I disregard people like that make foolish statements and qualify their logic or their philosophy with some idiotic thought to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah. Race absolutely does play a part in dating. First off, I mean, you have families, like, for example, Indian families, they still believe in arranged marriages, and their arranged marriages is with another Indian or Arab person. It's not with a black person here. So yeah, race absolutely plays. But you know, the quote that you read, that's just like Terry said, it's just dumb, it's idiotic. What exactly is a black quality or not black quality? Like, I've actually never heard that until I read this quote here. But
yeah, I knew the quote was going to step on some toes, because it was actually referencing this topic that we're talking about, but it was, again, 10 years ago. But I feel like, you know, that does play a role too, because your thought process in one decade is different, you know, in another time. So, I mean, that quote for me was just, the point I pulled out, and maybe my point could be on point, maybe not, but I kind of pulled out the whole thing of, I mean, you can't really say black, you know, you can't really put the race card, quote unquote, on that this quality is a black quality or not a black quality. I mean, it's just a person helped him through his life. So that's why I wanted to ask the question, is race a factor? Because in his head, race is not a factor. It's just a person helped me through this. Right. So
but the quote is contradictory. The quote is contradictory within itself. In one hand, he's saying, oh, it's, you know, black people don't do this X, Y, and Z, but she does these qualities is because she picked up non-black qualities. So it doesn't make any sense. You know, just trying to put the logic together here. It's contradictory to itself.
Okay, that's fair. Anybody else want to chime in?
Anytime I hear from a black guy, that explains why he doesn't date black women, it's always some nonsense. It's always some illogical, biased crap like that. Like, they sound like Trump supporters. You know what I mean? Like, but because nothing applies to all of any group of people. You can't say all black men this, all black women. Nothing applies to all of us. Now, we may be in the same condition or under the same set of circumstances and where we live or where we were raised or whatnot, but guys that would exclude themselves, so you can create a black child, but you wouldn't date one. To me, that shows a fractured psyche in how you evaluate yourself. You know what I mean? Right. Like, that's a you problem for you to view your people like that. Like, a black woman birthed you, but she's not capable of you creating another child with or dating. That makes absolutely no sense. Now, if people are talking about their specific preferences, that's totally different. You can have a preference without having to demean somebody else or another group. Just because I prefer a black woman don't mean that other women ain't worth dating. That's just not my preference, and that's not the family that I'll ever want. So that's my preference, and I'm not downing anybody else because of my preference. That's where people kind of get into trouble, where they act like it's my preference and everybody else ain't nothing. Like, that's where you get all the pushback and the drama.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll pick back. What resonates with me with this question, right? There's a song by Ice Cube called "True to the Game." It was on his second album, Deficit, came out in '92, right? In the first verse, he's kind of talking about this. Oh, once you make it, now you're getting a white woman on your arm and moving to a white neighborhood. And then the second quote. Then the second verse, he's talking about a gangster rapper wanting to appease his white fans, so he goes pop. And then the third verse, he's talking about a black dude wanting to assimilate with white people. He called him an Oreo cookie. So he's saying he's black on the outside, white on the inside. But it's funny. The song came out 28 years ago, but it's still relevant today. And this conversation, that song just resonates with me automatically.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I see that point. I see that. Ladies, did y'all want to chime in? Anybody?
Yeah, I was just thinking, when you asked the question about would you date outside your race, there is the saying that love is blind. So I'm not saying that I would date. I'm married, so I wouldn't say that I would date outside my race. I don't think that I would. And like you said, it's a preference. But I was just sitting here thinking, I don't know. I don't think I would do online dating, but say you were to do like some online dating and you're talking to someone that you haven't met, the question was never asked if you're black or white, or Hispanic or whatever, and then you finally decide we're going to meet and you've already fallen in love, that blind love per se. What would it change? Would it change anything? Because you found out, meet up, and you find out that they're a race other than your own. So that was kind of like a question that I wanted to throw out there.
That sounds like a hopeless romantic view of love. like it doesn't seem realistic or practical for someone to fall in love and want to be with somebody that they've never even saw before. Like that means, it's there. Just because two people get married don't mean it's a healthy relationship. That don't mean that was a smart decision. It don't mean that they actually happily. So just because you have situations like that, it sounds very unlikely that you will be able to just meet some random person and y'all just fit perfectly. I don't know anybody that fits together perfectly. You know what I mean? Like, even in a healthy relationship, you don't fit together perfectly, but you have the things in place to get through the conflict. The effective communication, the conflict resolution, the mutual respect, etc. So to fall in love with just the idea of somebody that could be telling you anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, without you being able to fact check it or back it up, that just sounds like somebody that's really anxious to be in love or be in a relationship that's just hoping for the best and haven't, the person haven't said or done anything that would warrant them cutting it off. But that sounds like a crash. That would be like a crash dummy situation for anybody that it was my friend to put themselves in.
Right. Yeah, I know you guys are referencing the Love is Blind show where, you don't see the person until after the fact. I believe you commit to the person, right? But, what is the show? What is it? An hour show?
Love is Blind on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. So I have I know of it, but I have never really watched the show. But like I said, it doesn't happen in real life. Nobody like Terry said, nobody just fall in love with the idea, but in real life, in real time, nobody just says, okay, yeah, I'm going to take a leap of faith and get into this relationship, and it's going to work. We're going to live happily ever after. Mm-hmm. That almost never happens here.
I see what you're saying, because the Netflix show was actually a pulled together type situation versus a real, but I think
a real life.
I actually met a young lady who lives here in North Carolina. I met a young lady who actually went through the whole blind date, quote unquote. And so now she's married to a Caucasian man. So, I mean, it can happen. I mean, I know it don't happen all the time, but it did happen for her. She ended up marrying a Caucasian man.
Listen, for what's it can, but I think those are few far in between. I feel like that's an anomaly.
I see what you're saying. Right. Yeah. For sure. This has been so good. Now, this last question is kind of an opinion question. I really didn't give a lot of context, but basically the last question is, when you consider young Jeezy and how he's engaged to Jenny Mai, who is Vietnamese and Chinese, what are your thoughts on that? It's just an opinion question. Just when you consider that. Relating it back to our main topic, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, anybody that knows his career or an opinion of that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, listen, for me, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I mean, whatever, you love who you love. But let's put it in some kind of context here.
Right.
Okay. Her being aged, let's be real for a second here. If he was Jay Jenkins, which is his government name, Jay Jenkins, the postal worker, is she gonna be dating him, giving the time of day? Hell no. Let's be real. But she dated him, he's somebody who's accomplished. He's a multi-platinum selling artist. I mean, he sold over 5 million records globally here. So that definitely played a factor. Okay, he's a black guy who's accomplished. That's what it would take to date her if you're black, not necessarily the average 9 to 5. Now, even if she was the average 9 to 5, she's not going to date, some black guy who's working the average 9 to 5 here. You see what I'm saying? And him parading her around now, he didn't do that with Keisha Cole. But now, just to be fair here, that was about a decade ago. So, hey, maybe he's changed since, he's grown since. He probably doesn't have the same mind frame that he had then, just to put that in some type of context here, just to be fair to him here. But, you love you, but, the way it's being shown all over social media, the way it's being portrayed, you probably wouldn't see that if he was dating a black woman. If we're just going to be real here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I posed the question, because again, it goes back to that thought process. 50 Cent said, he wants an exotic woman. And I mean, you bring up the past relationship that he had with Keisha Cole. We all know Keisha Cole's first song was Love. Like she was already feeling some type of way when she first came out. She felt some type of way, so initially that situation, I mean, of course we don't know any inside scoop, right? This is all what we see on the media. But I mean, initially that was her thought process coming into the game. And so Young Jeezy had that time. And then of course, as you already stated, time later, he's now engaged. You know what I'm saying? He took it to the next level with what 50 Cent calls an exotic woman, So that's kind of why I brought them up to say, is 50 Cent correct? Is this why, based on his theory?
I don't know who Jeezy ain't really been all that public about who he's been dating. But if he excluded black women from his dating pool, that would be a problem. If he just happened to shoot his shot at her and everything great, he had that great experience, that's a completely different scenario. When there's this narrative, you hate yourself and all that stuff, but the energy is way different when a black woman gets with a white man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, sis, these black men, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of a lot of the hypocrisy that I expose on my page and point out, like, y'all being real inconsistent on this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so part of it is bitterness. Part of it is, like I mentioned earlier, a result of the trauma that black men and women have had to endure, and just black love, period. The white woman's resentment towards black women because slave master preferred sex with their slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like, the white man's resentment of the black dude because mistress wanted that thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's a whole bunch of distrust. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole bunch of problems that we have to overcome, and it's kind of the elephant in the room if you're not woke enough to be aware of what it is. And so when this is specifically the reason I don't talk about black love per se on my page, because it's already a tough discussion to talk about women and the things that they do that are causing them to have dating problems. I didn't want to just target black women and say black women this and black, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's already enough of that going on, and just women in general feel like you bashing them if you point out how they messing up. You know what I'm saying? And that's not really the case. So as far as Jeezy and Jenny, they could actually be compatible. They've both been living a celebrity lifestyle for quite a while. They both in the same circles, etc. So I don't necessarily have an issue with it, unless it's like I said, if I don't date black women and I only shoot my shot at foreign chicks or whatever, then to me, then you lost. You know what I'm saying? No matter.
Right.
Yeah. Did you want to add something, Jason?
No, just like Terry said, now I say this, like I said, I don't care who you date, if you date, and now I have friends who, black friends who do date white women who are married, who are married to white women. So I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
My only thing is that, don't go out your way to bash black women. If if that's not your preference, that's not your thing, cool. But don't, because you see a lot of this where people who do date now, just like 50 say, well, black women don't do this and black women don't do it. And if really gonna be some of them, that do date non-black aren't even, let's just say exactly like they say, aren't the dons, for a lack of better description here.
I see. Yeah. And I think, and you know what? I think a lot of the points that were made today really show how even the dynamic of relationships need to be better. We have to have better communication, because again, if we actually had, and I like how Terry made the point, black women express themselves, because I know I tell my husband right now, Quinn, I can't believe this, and I could be considered angry, but the thing about it is,
if you're successful or not.
Say that again. Say it one more time.
Terry, I didn't say nothing.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I didn't say. I was just laughing.
Oh, okay, yeah, because my husband, he was like, you done now, Breonna? But that's the thing. I think that if we begin to actually dissect the conversations, and we begin to get deeper into understand, I think that's where we're lacking right here. We're lacking this understanding of the root of why a person feels funny.
Well, I wanted to bring up something. One thing that I can, from a black man's perspective, and dealing with black women, it can be very difficult to have a discussion with a black woman to resolve an issue or a conflict, because like I experience it all the time, especially early in my marriage. Like, I got both of my degrees are in communication. My line name is communicator, like excellent communication with everybody on earth. And my wife was telling me I got a communication problem. And it's like, nah. It's really, the problem is I'll sit there and let you express all your points and all your thoughts. And a lot of time those things that you're going off about are assumptions. They're your feelings that you're treating like facts. They're inaccurate things that you think about me that you are treating like fact. That now when it's my time to talk, I gotta go and correct all 5 of them that you punishing me about. You know what I mean? Like, so from a male perspective, it's like, man, I don't feel like dealing with all that. So that's what a lot of guys get tired of dealing with in regards to black women specifically. Because even if you are a dude that you ain't finna because I remember specifically having a conversation with my best friend. I was like, man, it's almost like you're penalized when a woman knows you never gonna hit her, when she knows that you're gonna respect her no matter what. It makes it very difficult for her to listen to you when you actually got to tell her something she don't want to hear. And that almost cost my wife her husband, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's what I think a lot of guys just kind of get tired of dealing with when it comes to Black women specifically. Every time I talk to guys about race, that's the one thing that they talk about. Like, man, if I tell my girl I feel this way, she'll correct the problem. She won't be like, but what about this? And what about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of the things that men experience when trying to address or deal with issues with the Black women they've dated.
So are they saying that other women don't do that? They say it's not nowhere near the degree that they experience with Black women. But it's done though, right? It doesn't matter like what degree, but it's done. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the thing that kind of just don't make sense to me, because you're saying that I feel like Black women it's all these stipulations put on us, like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, and you can't do that. But you will go and accept the same things from a white woman, Hispanic woman, whatever kind of woman, just because you want the look of it. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
not you.
It's not some. Well, men look at it like this: you're going to experience problems and things with any woman that you date. It's the frequency that they're talking about. If you deal with a woman where it happens 90% of the time, and a woman that it happens 2 or 3 times a year, that's a drastic. Those are two different brands. Those are two different things. And so if one woman is a lot more easier to communicate with and address issues with, a lot less combative, shows a lot more respect, etc. And the other woman, she might show respect and be compassionate too, but it's very infrequent. That only happens a couple of times a year. There's only a couple of times where you actually got to express yourself without her interrupting you or accusing you of lying or something like that. That changes the experience. You know what I'm saying? Just like driving a Ford for 6 months or driving a Benz for 6 months. You're going to be like, dang, I see why they more expensive. I see why people treat them different or feel differently about them.
So, I mean, your point of view is definitely heard and understood. I just think that the only portion of that comment that I would shift is, has the man considered his role in the situation? I think that's the only part I would like to kind of dig into.
Everybody has to be self-aware.
Right. Like I said, that's what I was alluding to earlier. I think as a Black woman, Black man, we first have to check ourselves, you know, and then when you get into that partnership or that relationship, there still has to be this level of trust, you know, absolutely, dependability, this thing of actually giving and receiving, you know. I think
absolutely. I'll say this, you know, I think what it comes down to is a level of self-awareness and having the wherewithal to know, okay, what you're doing wrong, where you're going wrong, and what do you do to correct it. Now, you know, me and Terry, we've been doing this, you know, podcasting for, you know, the better part of the last 5 years. And one thing I think we've spoke about is on almost every episode, the 100th episode that we have done, you know, is talking about effective communication and effectively dating. Like more so that's one of our point of emphasis is practical dating, you know, effective communication, effective problem solving, you know.
Yes, I definitely agree with you guys on that.
Effective conflict resolution. And I think that goes by the wayside a lot of times in these relationships, which is why you're not having you don't see a lot of these healthy relationships, or why these relationships end up being dysfunctional.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and also a lot of the things that create the conflict or things that or when a person's expectations conflict with reality. Mm-hmm. And men experience that an awful lot when it comes to women, because a lot of women don't have realistic expectations of what dating should look like, what effective problem solving looks like. You know, like from what I see, especially like with the thousands of women I deal with on my page, it's like anything that you say that is not praise or not telling women how great they are gets treated as you're attacking them. When really you just, because the way men address problems with each other is we can just get straight to the point. Like, man, when you do this, man, you be tripping, bro. That's not really the situation. And it won't be a long discussion about why he didn't like how you said it and why you shouldn't have did it this way. But with women trying to resolve issues, even basic things, like just trying to have a simple conversation to let her know what your point of view is, gets shown out the way. Because I find myself, like, that's how I even got to this point where I give advice, is because I'm an expert at dealing with Black women in particular, because I've been married, been with one for almost 20 years. But I'm a former teacher, I'm an expert in communication, and I've had to deal, and I'm a former hoe. So I've dated, smashed hundreds of women, and did all these type of things. So my level of knowing what the man is dealing with in practical terms is very, I'm a black belt on that. And so it's easy for me to explain why it's so problematic and so difficult for a lot of guys to do. Because the things that it takes to get to the point where we like, oh man, I didn't realize that was the source of the problem. Mm-hmm. Before you can even get there, a lot of times with women, it's she stopped you from getting there because you didn't use the word she felt you should have used. And it's like, well, if I stopped you every time you try to tell me how you feel because you didn't use the word I said you were supposed to use, you would never get your point across. And so if your man is allowing you to express yourself to him, you got to give him that same respect in order to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. Effective communication overall is basically what I believe this conversation is going towards. That we just want to encourage all of our listeners out there, whether you're dating, married, friendships, effective communication is essential for you two to be able to have a healthy relationship overall. So, I mean, this was a really heavy topic, and you guys brought some great key points. Ladies, you brought some great points out. And so I'm going to switch this thing over because I want to hear from the listeners. Now, this question for the listeners is a little bit different. So y'all flow with me. Would you rather date now, like join the dating scene now, or back in the 90s? Or is there a specific dating scene that you know, I know we got some 80s babies up here. I'm a 90s baby. Like what's the dating scene now or back then? What do y'all think was the better, quote unquote, dating scene? Anybody want to jump in?
I would say back then.
I mean, you know what? I say it's been more or less the same 20 years ago. The only difference between, let's just say, the dating scene in the 90s and the dating scene now is you have technology, you have social media, everything you have is within your hand through a click of a phone here. Yeah. So I think that's the only difference. Now we're seeing more of the stuff happen in real time here. To me, that's the only difference. I don't think, necessarily my friends were that much different then than they are now.
I was gonna say the same behaviors, the same patterns of dating. You meet somebody we find attractive, we exchange contact information, send them a screenshot of your Instagram, whatever. It don't matter how you get the initial exchange, like you communicate and then it goes from there. Y'all agree to set a time to meet up in person. So it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I think I like the 90s because I just remember my sister. Again, I was younger then. So I just remember my sister, like the guy actually coming to the house, asking my mother, can I take Tanisha out? Can I take her to the movies? I feel like the level of respect is where I'm referring to. The level of respect for actually getting to that initial date. It was much better then. And of course, older, even when my sister got older, the men actually took time to say, hey, how are you doing today? What's going on? I saw this show. Would you like to go out on a date with me? Was there cheating? Yes. Was there drama? Yes. But I feel like the level of consideration and respect, and of course, chivalry is not dead. It wasn't dead then. It's not dead now. But I feel like chivalry was really shown back in the 90s. Now it's like, hey, yo. So
I mean, I noticed something. Like I said, I don't think the mind frame was necessarily different per se. You know what I'm saying? You still do the same. Like I said, cheating happened then too. It's just we never really. You can get away with it better then and now you have more access to stuff. Now you're oversaturated with things being with technology here.
The biggest difference between the 90s and now is we're in the generation of teenage parenthood. That really took place in the 90s. So before then, parents were in their mid-20s to 30s when they started having multiple kids. They were more established, etc. And then with the generation of teenage parents, it became a parent friendship, or the grandparents was still raising y'all both, you know what I'm saying, or still providing for y'all both. So that's where you lost the level of respect. And then as technology came in, now you got the sexting, you got the thirst traps, you got chicks showing themselves, and all these different things that are technology driven. Same stuff that was happening back then, just on a much different scale. And to the point that you made, Breonna, about the guys not asking, what are you doing or what are you thinking? Well, if he follow you, he know what you was doing earlier. He know how you feel. He know what you mad about. So you don't need to. You broadcasting that information to the public already. So there's no need for a guy to do that. There's no need for the phone call because we can text each other. We can emoji each other. I can screenshot you a meme myself. So people just do it in different ways. You don't have to have that phone call, but a dude send you a screenshot of a back shots meme, you know what page he's on. You know what I mean? So you can communicate what you thinking and feeling in a lot different ways, just a technology today.
Mm-hmm. So true. I understand that point. Yolanda, you got something? Okay.
I want to send it back to my girl Ebony. Ebony, you were saying that you prefer back then, but you were getting ready to say something. I wanted to catch what you were saying.
I think Breonna and Jason touched on both of my points.
Okay.
Like I said, as far as I go, I would prefer, back in the day, back in the 90s before technology and all that stuff. I felt like standards were better then than now.
Oh, okay.
And granted, like Terry said, we are dealing with a different time now with social media and the things that people are putting out there. And even though I do partake in social media, I'm an 80s baby, raised in the 90s. And, I actually think about stuff that I post on social media, previous to my husband and all of that stuff like that. It's just some stuff you just don't want to put out there because you have standards and because you have morals and stuff like that. And I think that's another thing that comes into play when some men say that, Black women are angry or they're stuck up or, they have all these different qualities and stuff like that. I feel because they are in a mind frame like back in the 90s where you should have a certain, like Breonna, like your sister, the guy had to come to the house and ask to take her out. That's what your parents instilled. Your dad showed, courting your mama how he's supposed to and showing you guys how it's supposed to be, so.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well,
I like
I think that idea of supposed to be is kind of the problem. Like back in the day, the only way that a person could get to even know where you lived and know how to ask your dad is if y'all had some type of interaction or connection. You didn't know random dude ain't just coming to knock up on a random door and ask for a date. It's somebody you knew from your church, from your school, from your family members. So it was a network. It just wasn't a digital one. It was somebody that knew y'all's family, had been having a crush on your sister, that shot his shot, and that's how he got to that point. But when women talk about the nostalgia of the 90s, they miss all that part. They miss all the realities of what it actually was. There were a lot less opportunities. You were a lot less likely to meet people from you're more likely to end up with somebody from your hood back in the 90s. So drastically increased. But those same respect, they gonna be using social media or not. And that's the difference, the people that like the guys that would never date a IG thought they can't imagine they woman posting her panties of her crotch on her timeline. It amazed me how dudes can date women like this. You know what I'm saying? Or marry women like this. It's crazy to me. You know what I mean? But I'm like, man, how can a woman not feel like that's problematic? You know what I'm saying? From her perspective, but it's just a reflection of, like I said, that teenage generation where people don't care. Like stripping used to be something women would, you had to like, oh, Tiffany strip, you know what I'm saying? It would be earth-shattering news if you found out somebody you knew was a stripper. Like now, it's like, man, that's they come up. So it's I think that has
that's
very,
very true.
That.
Yeah. Those are some things that I think that, you know, in the end, it's all about your keyword you said earlier, preference. And I think that for me, and maybe the ladies, if they agree or disagree, I think the preference of the 90s. I know we can get deep and technical, you know, but the preference of the 90s was specifically that respect and that standard. That's really where I was coming from with that question. But I'm gonna go to my sister girl of the week, who is Viola Davis. And I chose her because she won so many Emmys. And a lot of people put this stigma on her as the Black Meryl Streep, but I feel like she's Viola Davis and she's rocking it. And she sets a standard that lets us know, you say it loud, you Black and you proud, honey. And she got her a nice Black husband and a nice little Black baby, and they doing their little Black thing. So I'm just so excited for her, and I shout her out. So go ahead, Viola Davis. All right. So, one word motivation. Did we get to this part of the show where we just want to encourage our listeners with one word or one phrase that comes to your mind? I am going to pass it to Katrina. What is one word or one phrase that you want to motivate the people this week?
Worth. Know your worth. No matter what the media is saying about Black women, whatever, girl, know your worth and move on with your week, okay?
Did y'all catch that? Know your worth and enjoy your week. But you also enjoy your weave too, if you got some. Enjoy that too. Okay. Yolanda, what about you?
Observe. That's it.
Observe. Awesome. And Ebony?
Yes.
I'm gonna say commitment. Just be committed to your happiness. Be committed to who you are as a person. Committed.
Jason.
Hey, I would say elevate, man. Every day is a new opportunity to elevate yourself here.
And Terry?
Action. Take action. Like those thoughts in your head, those ideas that you've been wanting to work on, do something about it. Put the money down, put the deposit down, sign up for something. Like it's time for people to start taking action, and that's the only way you're gonna get any goal.
And my word is communicate. Let people know how you feel. All right. And so the ChiChat phase is actually my fruit earrings. I'm gonna ask my husband to go get them because I forgot to bring them over here to my little scene that I set up. But my fruit earrings are my favorite because they come from a Black-owned business up in Durham, North Carolina. It's called Graffiti Panda. I love her name. I'll be like, Panda. I like this right here. These are some fruit earrings. And again, she is in Durham, North Carolina, and her business is Graffiti Panda. And I felt like I was Tabitha Brown when I ordered these. So anyway, shout out to you, girl. So my last point of the show, we got to shout out our ChiChat merch. Ladies, show what you got. I got my shirt. Go head over to Teespring. Go to Teespring/store/ChiChat and order your merch. Support your ladies. Support the podcast. Listen, we have enjoyed the men from Hoe to Husband. They have really dropped some knowledge. If you caught it, ladies, we learned some things, and ladies, hey, we talked about some things. So I am just so excited. You all have a great rest of your day. This has been another episode of the ChiChat. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to our episode of ChiChat. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at ChiChat Podcast.